Hello and welcome again to class today. Thank you so much. How have you been? Now, we already started on sodium. Previously, we started on minerals, and then we treated calcium and phosphorus, potassium. There's the fourth mineral we're dealing on. And we have already started the historical perspective in the class before the previous, and then we looked at the sources of sodium and absorption of it in the last class. So today we'll be looking at metabolism of sodium. Now, what is metabolism? We talked about metabolism being a process, a two-way process, in which case one part is catabolism and the other part is anabolism. In catabolism, we're referring to the breaking down of large molecules into smaller substances inside the body. And then by anabolism or anabolic process is the building up, restructuring, and then building it up again to fit into the requirements of the required parts of the body, to the required tissues or cells in terms of repair, in terms of making new cells or tissues. So that's what metabolism is all about. So metabolism, whenever you hear metabolism, we're talking about both the breaking down and the building up, the breaking down and then restructuring, building up. Now, but in this case, we're talking about sodium. Sodium is actually not really broken down as that, in which case it's actually really circulated. Now, I decided to use the word metabolism because it's a pattern we've actually brought down, written down. Now, unlike carbohydrates and fats, sodium itself is actually not metabolized. Rather, it circulates freely in the extracellular fluid. Now, get this, extracellular fluid. Something I've actually talked about in passing, made allusion to with respect to sodium and the previous mineral we looked at, potassium. You'll usually find potassium in intracellular fluid. However, sodium is in extracellular fluid. Both of them need to have an antagonistic balance in the body. Certain levels are required. However, there is a need to regulate them. Sodium, more often than not, is required more than potassium in the body. So it's usually going to be maintenance of the balance. Now, this is all metabolism and reabsorption has to do with control, the homeostasis, the control of the levels of sodium and potassium. As a matter of fact, most hormones, minerals, and nutrients are controlled in certain levels. So you have a range where you can say this is normal. Now, going on, sodium balance. Now, sodium balance is tightly and seriously controlled by 1, 2, 3. Number one, the kidney. Kidney plays the most important function in the control of the quantity or levels of sodium in the blood. Now, remember, the blood is a fluid. Now, what does the kidney do? It does a function called ultrafiltration. Now, remember this. Everything ingested by animals are first masticated, that is for those who chew. For those that chew, or poultry don't chew, they take in, and then acid medium and the action of microbes digest the food. Now, for those that chew, you have mastication, and then there is digestion. After digestion is absorption. You talk about other forms of metabolism. Now, these things are now absorbed through the villi or the walls of the intestine and the stomach. For minerals, usually the small intestine absorption takes place. Now, when they absorbed into the bloodstream, the blood carries this into every part of the body, supplying every part of the body with nutrients, also carrying hormones, carrying antibodies and the others. Now, the urine, the blood into the kidney is filtered. The process is called ultrafiltration. Now, in the process now, sodium is regulated. By this, excess sodium will be removed via urine. However, the quantity needed will be absorbed and taken through within the body by the blood to various places cells, tissues, and organs where you have them, particularly around the muscles. Now, that is what we talked about. In the previous class, we talked about sodium, sources of sodium. When you eat meat or you process fish meal you have sodium in those particular sources. Animal products like meat, fish, poultry, egg, and the others. So, now taking this subject, we're trying to look at nutrition for animals, in which case humans are respectfully higher animals. So we're trying to talk about feeding animals and also feeding humans. That's usually doing both sides. Now the other place where we have sodium balance being taken care of, regulation of sodium, is the hormones. Two hormones particularly, antidiuretic hormone and aldosterone. Have we ever come across this before? Yes, we did in the regulation of potassium. I talked about potassium and sodium. I've talked about it repeatedly being in the means where the both of them are just about the same thing, playing about the same role. But yes, sodium plays more in a higher quantity. Now, aldosterone is used in ensuring control or regulating the levels of sodium in the body, just as it does with potassium. What they do is that they control reabsorption of sodium after filtration. Then after filtration in the glomerulus, it goes in through, and then the reabsorption of it, aldosterone and antidiuretic hormone help in controlling it. And also, in which case those that are not reabsorbed, the opposite of it will be excreted. Those reabsorbed into the body will be taken for usage. Those that are in excess need, will be excreted. Now that done, in which other way by which the body regulates the quantity or levels of sodium in the body, you have it rightly in sweating. Now you know it already. You sweated a number of times. Where the sweat dripped into your tongue, to your mouth, you licked it, you know it's salty. Is that not true? Now there's no harm in it. You can touch your sweat and put it, although it's not going to cause major harm. And you can taste, you know that it's actually salty. Now that's it. Excess salt, sodium in salt is excreted via sweat, especially during hot seasons and when you're involved in high energy requiring activities. Now energy, glucose, energy keep coming with sodium. So you see, when you're doing hard work, you're sweating, or you're in very active sport, very vigorous sport, when you sweat, you're actually regulating the quantity of sodium in your body and also salt. So excess salt is being excreted. So by this medium. So in this already we looked at the metabolism of sodium, in which case we looked at sodium being found especially in the extracellular fluid. The balancing of it is tightly controlled by the kidney via ultrafiltration and also hormonal systems by antidiuretic hormone and aldosterone, which ensures reabsorption and excretion of the mineral sodium. And also via sweating ensures you remove excess of sodium. Now let's do it again in the next class. In the next class, what you hope to expect, will be function, and hopefully we'll also treat both function and efficiency system. So we've already done this, so we'll be looking at this and this in the next class, and then we'll wrap it up. Thank you again for staying tuned. Let's see again. Please, if you gain value, please share, like, subscribe, follow.